Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is Keeping It Real on Purpose. And I'm so glad you're here today with our series, Real Talk with Life Coaches. And today I am blessed to have none other, and I'm going to say her name right, Nikita Thakrar, right?
Yeah, perfect.
Say
Thank
yes. So
you.
happy.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes. And she is a multifaceted teacher, a mentor, and a coach. She combines her practicality with spirituality, which I love. Nikita is intuitively encouraging. She has great insights and she's introspection. I love it. Guiding men and women all over the world their own journey of self discovery and increased awareness
Yeah.
about their soul's purpose. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
I am
Namaste.
so tell us something about you. Just go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Do you know, since a young age, I've just been such a curious person. I remember when I was 10 years old and I asked my mum, like, what's the meaning of life? Why are we all here? And she was like, I'll just go to school.
Sounds like my mom.
Yeah. So I've always been so curious,
Yeah.
and always questioning things around me and had a
Yeah.
philosophical nature. And I just have grown up writing poetry and being on a quest towards finding myself and finding my purpose. And now I'm so blessed to be able to help other people to find theirs.
Yeah, that's great. I'm a writer, so I want to get really started on this. I know we had a pre-show talk, which I should start recording our pre-show talks because
Yeah.
they're really interesting. But we talked about, just being in other countries and everything. We talked about that. But I want to talk about your poetry because I know that's worldwide,
Yeah. So,
And the other thing we're going to delve into, audience, is Dharma.
yeah.
A few of you have asked me about that because we always talked about karma. Everybody talks about karma, but no Dharma. So I don't know where to start. So you start
Yeah.
us off where you want to.
Okay, so first of all, just want to share my book, Meditation Through Poetry.
Yes,
So this is available internationally. You can order it on Amazon, wherever you are in the world.
absolutely.
So I mentioned I grew up writing poems. All my friends were on the playground, playing, doing the normal childhood things. But I was in
Uh-huh.
the school library writing poems about life and peace and death and war and subjects that are so deep in nature. And so it was actually during the pandemic I decided to compile all my poems, and then I'm blessed to be able to have published them and sharing them with the world.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Okay. So you started it, and I know that I used to write too as well. I used to love to write. Love,
Yeah.
love, love, love to write. Um, what inspired you? I know you had to see something. So like me, I would start writing about an orange. I don't care. I saw something, I started writing. What inspired you just to start just like scribbling away?
I think it's just because I had such a curious mind. There was thoughts racing around and they were, like I say, philosophical in nature. And I think for me, writing was an outlet. And I really encourage people, if you've never picked up a
Mm-hmm.
pen and paper before, this is the time to do it, because journaling is such a therapeutic practice. And I
Oh, it
use it
is.
my own clients, and I've seen people have breakthroughs when they start to incorporate meditation with journaling, and the two
Yes.
can just be perfectly paired.
Absolutely. I believe journaling, like you said, is so very powerful. I could tell you that I've written several books
Yeah.
from journaling. It just
Yeah.
came from journaling,
Yes.
and before I knew it, it was a book and then kind of put it all together.
Yeah.
But journaling is so powerful when it comes to getting your feelings out because sometimes you're in a situation you can't talk, and you
Yes.
don't know how to verbalize. But
That's
everyone knows how to write. When they're taught how to write, everybody knows how to. Even if it comes out, the wrong way, you write it out.
Yeah, I think
It's
that's
very,
what I
very
love about journaling, that there's no right or wrong. And when
no.
people first get started, they're like, I don't know what to write. And actually, I say, just allow yourself to get into the zone.
Yes,
That's why I say meditation goes hand in hand with it.
it
Because
sure
if you get
does.
yourself into that zone, then you're much more able to allow the words to just flow.
Yeah,
Whereas
just
if
to
we're
flow.
in that logical, rational part of the brain, then we're not going to be able to really express
Absolutely.
ourselves.
Absolutely. Absolutely so. So now that you've written this, do you teach, journaling as part of the
Yes.
meditative process?
Definitely. Journaling, meditation, and chakra balancing. These are the
Yeah.
tools that I use to really allow people to
Okay.
connect with their body and their mind. You know, we live in such a fast paced world now. What I'm hearing more and more is people are saying they've got that disconnect. They're not feeling aligned.
Right.
They're not feeling congruent anymore. And I really want to help people to be able to tap into themselves again and to get into that space where they can just
Right.
be their true selves.
Right. And when their chakras are unbalanced,
Yes.
what does that bring about? What are one of the signs that you can kind of feel or see?
I believe that all physical and mental health symptoms are a result of chakra blockages. Now, the chakra system is thousands of years old.
I
Okay.
believe that too. I really do.
If our
Absolutely.
chakras are blocked, it's going to manifest into physical symptoms, mental
Hmm.
health symptoms, and then we go to the doctors and we try and get medicine, but we're not going to the root cause. And I only know this because I myself was diagnosed with a chronic illness, and I found that medication did help, but actually it was really holistic therapy that supported me. And
Yeah.
now it's a combination of both. I take conventional medication
Yeah.
and I use holistic therapy, and I
Yeah.
can't advocate them both together,
Yeah.
more.
That's good. For all of us, of those that are in probably, let's say, LinkedIn area, there's a workplace, and I know workplace can be so very difficult to kind of deal with. And then
Yeah.
you come home. Is there a way that you can utilize what you do to debrief when you get home? Because I know I was always like, oh, I gotta take a break. I gotta take a break. I would tell that to my children, give me 30 minutes. How can we
Yeah.
do that?
Do you know, yes, of course, there's breath work, there's meditation, there's loads of modalities, but it's about prevention. It's about not getting to that state
Yeah.
in the first place where we
Yeah.
feel so stressed and
Yeah.
overwhelmed and as though we can't cope.
Yeah.
And we can only do that when we are living our purpose, when we're
Hmm.
doing something, a job that's out of alignment with our core nature. That's
Right.
when we experience stress and overwhelm.
Right.
If we're
So,
doing a job that we love, that
right.
lights us up,
Okay. I was going
it
to ask.
doesn't,
Okay.
yeah,
Gotcha.
it doesn't matter how much you work
Right.
because you just don't get tired. I don't know, you
Right.
probably are the
Gotcha.
same. Like, you just can work endlessly because it doesn't feel like work because you're
Right.
in your dharma.
Right. Oh, that's good. Yeah, that I was, I was going to ask you that. So when you're telling me I have to debrief, when I'm having to debrief from a job, that means I'm not in my purpose.
Yeah,
Okay.
basically. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
And we can carry on, we can keep on pushing ourselves, we can tell ourselves a narrative that, oh, I can't leave my job because I can't pay my bills, da, da, da. But
Right.
the truth is you're supposed to be doing something you love that lights you
Right.
up,
Right.
and it's supposed to be paying you.
Right.
That's what I
Exactly.
believe. Yeah.
Exactly. So what do you say to those that, I've heard this so many times, and I work with a number of clients. So they say to me, I'm doing this out of the goodness of my heart. I love what I do. Money doesn't mean anything. Where does that come from? Because I always say, is this a business? Yes. But I do what I do because I said, no, you don't. If it's a business, you're doing it because what you're doing can be profitable. So I
Yeah.
don't understand, where does that come from that
Yeah.
that people are saying that?
Yeah, it comes from a place of not recognizing that you can be paid for doing what you love. Like, I just wish that I had a speakerphone and I could just tell the
Right,
world.
for those in the back, like, please.
Exactly. Like, you can be paid to show
Yes,
up. Like,
yes,
right now, neither of us feel like we're working, I assume. I don't
right,
feel like I'm working
yeah,
right now. This is
yeah,
just me. I'm being me. The way
yeah,
I'm being now with you is the way I am at home with my family or
yeah,
with my friends or with my, whoever.
yeah,
Whereas I think in our society, we're wearing so many different hats and
yeah,
we're
and
taking them off
masks,
and
yeah,
we're putting them off and
absolutely,
masks. And Dharma is about taking off all the hats, just chuck
Yeah.
them all away.
Yeah, I think you're so right, because a lot of times when I first started this podcast, right, or I started talking to everybody, I have dyslexia, so it kind of prevents me. In my mind, I know what it's supposed to sound like, I know what it looks like, but it comes out differently,
Yeah,
And I always worried about that. And then, of course, I'm a little hyper. As you can tell, I'm a little hyper, and those two things together kind of, get people, you're supposed to do it perfectly. And it was not until I think in 2020 that I said, you know what? I don't care anymore. This is who I am. I'm
yeah,
going to get mixed up whether I rehearse it
yeah,
or not.
yeah,
I'm going to get mixed up. And then there's other issues that come up because you're dyslexic,
yeah,
but it's a lot of uncertainty too. But it's me, it's who I am.
exactly.
So
And
I'm not going to take time out to make things perfect. And I'm just going to be me. And when I started doing that, I was think opportunities started happening, and the podcast kind of flourished. I
there
was
you go.
being me,
Yeah, you're a living example of somebody who chose to take off all their hats, all their masks, and say, do you know what? I'm going to, and it's brave. That's brave to do that.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
takes courage, and I honor you for
yeah.
doing that,
Yeah, it
but
does. It takes a lot of
it's
it. It
so,
takes a
I
lot of it. Days
assume,
that you don't want to be courageous, you have to be.
but I can see, I assume it's so liberating for you,
Yeah.
and it's so liberating for us as your audience, because you
Hmm.
welcome us into your real world, and
Yeah.
that's beautiful.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. So let's talk about Dharma. I love the concept of Dharma, not as a concept. I don't know what it is, but I really started just delving into it because So tell us a little bit what Dharma is. What it looks like,
Yeah.
please.
Dharma is a Sanskrit word and it means purpose, duty, service. And it's really the reason that we're here on earth. So you've all heard the word karma. Karma is our
Yeah.
actions, karma is our desires, the things that we do.
Right.
Dharma is the outcome of that. It's the other end of that. So our
Hmm.
karma is what we have to go through. And the Dharma is once we've been through all of that stuff, our life experiences, our
Right.
professional skills, our personal qualities, we start to amalgamate them all together and we show up and we do
Right.
exactly what you did in 2020. We say, hey guys, do you know what? This is me.
Yeah.
I'm here now. I'm at this other side and I'm going to help you as well.
Yeah.
So it's about service. It's about contribution. How can I use
Right.
my life experiences to help others?
Yeah. And it's not all that, another thing I've learned too, just because you can come into your perfect purpose, you're not perfect.
Right.
You're learning. Life is like an onion, and when you think that you have all this done, something else pops up. Nope,
Yeah.
you gotta fix that.
Yeah. And
It's
yep,
always a
every time there's a
change.
new layer. Yeah. New level,
Yeah.
new devil, they say. So
Yes.
it means that as long as we're living a human experience, we have to
Yeah.
go through. And it doesn't mean that just because we start to step into our dharma, that our karma finishes. We all have our karma
Yes.
to play all the time.
Absolutely.
But it's worth knowing that.
Let me tell you about the online cannabis that's revolutionizing how we deal with life challenges, from sleepless nights to stressful days. Mood.com has created an entire line of functional gummies that target specific health concerns. With 100% federally legal THC blends, they'll deliver them discreetly right to your doorstep. And you get 20% off your first order at mood.com with promo code 23. I've tried a bunch of their gummies myself, and it's wild how different each one feels. Their Sleepy Time gummies knocks me out in 15 minutes flat. No hangovers, no grogginess, and I wake up feeling amazing. And their Epic Euphoria gummies, they're perfect for those days when nothing's going right and you just need to hit that reset button on your crappy mood. What makes these different is how they paired THC and other cannabinoids with herbs and adaptogens. You're just not going to find gummies like this in any dispensary anywhere, no matter what. And they have gummies for literally everything: immune support, menopause relief, PMS symptoms, mental clarity, sexual arousal, and each one is crafted using federally legal cannabis grown on small family owned American farms. No pesticides, no BS, and they can ship to most states in the US. Best of all, not only does Mood stand behind everything with an industry leading 100-day satisfaction guarantee, but as I mentioned, listeners get 20% off their first order with the code 23. So head on over to mood.com, browse their amazing selections and of functional gummies, and find the perfect gummy for whatever you're dealing with. And remember to use promo code 23 at the checkout to save 20% of your first order.
The other side of my karma is my duty, my purpose, my contribution, my service. I could just be me. I could amalgamate everything that I have, everything I am, and I could show up and I could use my experiences to help other people. How amazing is that? That's
I love the
incredible.
word amalgamate. I love that.
Yeah.
So amalgamate, just
And then to be paid for it as well,
yes.
There's people watching this now thinking, yeah, right, it's okay for you. You're lucky. I'm not. No, we can all do it. Imagine what the world would be like if everyone was living their Dharma. How cool would it be to go into shops and the shopkeeper's then, she's like living her Dharma. That's her Dharma to do that. It would be amazing. Everyone you interact with, they would all be lit up. We'd all be in our higher self, a high vibration. That's my dream for the world.
It is. I'm so I don't want to say blessed, but I'm so fortunate to meet those who are like you. I'm so happy about that because I look forward to always having someone that vibes with me, because I can be a little bit.
I can imagine you vibe with everybody.
I can be a little bit much. And I remember just today I had an early appointment with someone and he was really low key. And I was like, well, I don't really like this. And he was shocked that I was being truthful. I said, what's the matter? He's like, well, no one ever said that they didn't like it. I said, well, I don't. I said, I don't feel comfortable. And he was like, wow, I wasn't ready for that. I wasn't ready for someone to tell me. I said, their truth, right? He said, no.
That's right. Yeah. So you were not an energetic match. So everything is energy. Like we're all feeding off each other's energy.
And it's okay not to be that. It's okay. It really is.
And when we are living in our higher self, our higher purpose, we radiate a higher frequency. And therefore, when we interact with others, we bring them up to that frequency as well. Now, that's not to say that in a superior way. I'm talking about energetically. And that's why we each have a responsibility to manage our energy and make sure that we don't leave the house until we've cleansed our energy. Like you wouldn't leave the house until you've cleaned your body, right? You would shower and go out. It's the same thing. Your energy is just as important as your physical body, if not more.
And that makes sense. That really makes sense. And that's why what you said is it's checking for me, because I often wonder to have, you come to work and you're in a bad mood. So that tells me you did not check your vibration before you left home. You did not. We have to realize that when we're involved as being humans and around other humans, that we have to really check our vibration. We're going to be going through some stuff. I get it. I even have a habit of saying, "Oh, I can't do that today because I'm not vibrationally there. I can't."
I love that.
Maybe I have to be in front of someone. I can't do that today.
Yeah,
I'm not
because you're
sensitive.
There. You're sensitive to it, and if you do put yourself out there in that situation, you might come away depleted.
Exactly.
Sometimes we come home and we say, I'm tired, I'm exhausted, but actually we didn't do much. It's
Right.
because we've interacted with so many different people. We've taken on their
Right.
vibrations. But the good news is we can clear them. And
Yes.
how do we clear them? Meditation. So
Mm-hmm.
important.
Yeah.
Meditation, cleansing, sage,
Yeah.
use water, showering, like
Yeah.
whatever it is for you,
Well,
whatever
that's
resonates.
good. That's good. That's
Some
really good.
people use crystals.
Yeah.
I use essential oils in my practice. So whatever works for you, but
Mm-hmm.
start doing something, start taking some responsibility for
Right.
your own energy field.
Mm-hmm. That makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Now let me ask you a question. How do if we're not aware of it? I know some people are not aware. They're just not aware because
Yeah.
that's just how they've been living for years.
Yeah.
Do we have a space, or should do we have a space for us to say that, for you to say that to someone? You know, how can we address that?
There's a difference between someone not being aware and someone not being ready. So
Ah, yeah, there is.
I've got
There
people
is.
who are really ready. They show up, they do want to do it, but they don't have awareness. That's okay. But then there's other people who are not ready. And for
Yeah,
them, no, I believe we don't have a place. I used to be
yeah.
someone that was quite pushy, and I used to be like, come on, start the journey. Like, I would want to shake them.
Yeah,
And they were just not ready. And I could
yeah,
see the patterns in them that could easily be changed, but they were not
yeah.
wanting to change them or
Right, and they
address
have to
them,
want that for
and they have to
themselves.
want it. That's
Hmm.
the power of autonomy. And we cannot, as coaches and therapists, impose on others. I
Right,
really believe that it's so important to give people that freedom. If they're not ready for the journey, they're not
right.
ready.
So how does that? But how does that translate in the workplace? You know, how does that get adjusted? You know what I mean? People who are not ready
Yes.
come to work with a their energy is so not there or gone
Yeah.
or negative or whatever it is, and they how do you adjust that as a let's say supervisor? How do you adjust that?
Yeah, I believe that everyone gets to a point where they have a realization, and normally it's as a result of something like a negative thing. So in
Okay,
my case, it was my health scare.
right.
And so I
Okay,
do
gotcha.
believe everybody will have to come onto the journey
Yeah,
eventually.
yeah,
But until then, they kind of go through life. We say plodding along in the UK. I don't know if
yeah,
you
yeah,
use that phrase there. Do
yeah.
you? We use it quite a lot. Like we're plodding along, and
Yep.
it basically means we're just going through the motions.
Through
We're
the
going through
motions.
the
Yeah, yeah.
mundane work routine and the home routine
Right.
until we get to a point where we say the three most important words. Now, these three words are a game changer,
Mm-hmm.
and they are enough is enough.
Yeah, yeah.
Once you say those three words, it's done. You won't go
Yeah,
back to
yeah.
your office the
You're right.
next day. You
And
won't
I
go back
think
to your partner who you're unhappy with. You
right.
will leave the situation
Yes,
once you get to that
yes,
point where you put your
yeah,
hands up and you say, enough is enough.
yeah. And when you experience the same darn thing all the time, like, so you're at a job and you get fired. What do you get
Yeah,
fired for? You know, and then it happens again. Then you're like, okay, something's got to give.
yeah,
It's got to be that I'm not. I'm the person involved in this. Why
yes,
is everybody firing me? And I have clients that come
yes,
in, and say to me, Edna, it happened again. And
yeah.
you
It's a
know, it
pattern. Yeah,
happened again. Well, you're the only thing in the equation. So
yeah.
let's take that apart. Let's talk about that.
And
And I
it
think
takes
we need to
courage.
realize that. And
Yeah.
you're saying it. Enough is enough.
Enough is
We have to
enough. Yeah.
realize that.
And it takes courage to say those words and to
Yeah.
step out of victim mode, because it's so
Yes.
comfortable to
Yes.
say, oh, it's because of my boss, it's because of my partner, it's
Right.
because of XYZ. But
Yeah.
it takes a lot of courage to say, do you know what? There's something in me that I
Yeah.
need to address. And
Absolutely.
there's no shame in that.
Yeah. And that's good. On and like you said before, in your dharma, there is going to be some karma. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. We all
It's
have to
gonna
go
be
through
that.
our karma. Yeah.
You have to
We
take
all
it.
have to get stuck in traffic jams. We all
Yeah.
have to go through the daily life
Yeah,
and the
there's gonna
human
be,
experience.
yes.
It doesn't mean that you reach this stage of enlightenment and that's it. It
Yeah.
means that you've got more wisdom, you've got more
Yeah.
awareness, you show up with ease and grace,
Yeah.
and you just basically do what lights you up. That's what
Right.
Dharma is, in my experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So we have to be aware of that. I think that what you really are talking about is just starting to be self-aware. Audience, you have to start to be self-aware that enough is enough. Being the
Yes.
same way year in and year out. And this is our lunar year.
Yeah.
Lunar meaning that, it's the wood snake actually. And
Yes.
think of a snake shedding its skin, getting rid of things
Yeah.
that no longer serve you. That's what
That's a
we really have
great
to get to.
example, actually, because Dharma is shedding your skin. It's about going back to the essence of who
Right.
you are. Who were you when you were a child? I have clients and they
Absolutely.
say to me, I was playful and funny as a child. And I'm like, you're not playful and funny now. What happened to you? It's because life has thrown
Yes, it's
so
beat
many
us up.
layers.
Absolutely,
And
it's
when we
beat us
take
up.
those layers away, they've suddenly got this really witty sense of humor, or they've got this playfulness, and it's beautiful. It's like watching a flower blossoming because you're
Yeah,
able to see
yeah,
the true personality. I love
yes.
it.
It's very true. I say that, one time I had someone on the podcast, and no matter what I said, we had a pre-show, so I was trying to get them ready and get them, charged up. And no matter what I said, it was like I was like, I can't record this. I said, I
Yeah,
don't know what's going on. And then they kind of broke and told me, I said, okay, you're not ready for this because this
yeah,
is not, it's one thing for me. I have to do a great job,
yeah.
and I have to give the audience something. I said, but if you're not in a great mood, I can't help.
Mm.
I can't help them. I'm giving.
And again, you're giving an example of your honesty
Yes.
here.
Yeah.
You're self-aware, but you're
Yeah.
also honest. So
Yeah.
can our viewers take that quality of
Yeah.
yours and start being honest with themselves?
Yeah.
If you don't like your job, you don't like your job. I'm not
Yeah.
saying quit and be in
Sure.
financial debt.
Absolutely.
I'm saying shift your thinking slightly to be
Right.
able to open up new possibilities for yourself.
Yes.
Because in my experience, as soon as you shift your thought process, the
Right.
universe comes and makes everything else happen.
Right.
So if
Right.
you set an intention and say, right, this is going to be the year, I'm going to be in a job that I love. I'm going to set up a business that I love doing. I'm going to do
Mhm.
whatever it is. In my
Right.
experience, the universe will help you to make it happen.
Absolutely. Are you on Instagram at all? What's your hashtag?
Journey with Nikita.
Okay. So,
Yeah.
audience, you know how to get her on Instagram. Um, that's a good spot to get you on. I just wanted to say that.
Yeah.
Throw that in.
Yeah.
So what else? What was one thing that you can give to our audience as we exit this interview? What is one great thing that
Do
we
you know,
didn't hear today?
I think there's so many, but one thing that has really helped me is the power of pause. We have such busy lives, as I said, and many of us have very overactive minds. Our thoughts
Yeah.
are racing 100 miles an hour, if not more. The power of pause is the ability to just stop and
Yeah.
actually just physically stand still or just sit still and not move and not do anything. And it's not just about not moving the body, but it's about trying to bring your mind into that state of presence. Now, we might not be able to do that for more than 30 seconds or a minute, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Even that, that's going to help you perhaps once an hour, once every couple of hours, when you're at work, in your break, take time out. Don't just scroll your phone and keep your mind active and engaged. Actually experience being present and
Mm-hmm.
having that pause.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yes. Pause is so very important. It's not just on the videos.
No,
It's for
exactly.
you.
Yeah, like
It's
that.
for you. Well,
Yes.
audience, we want to thank you for hanging out today, for all those who showed up live with us. And I didn't see any questions, but if you do have some questions, I want you
Yeah.
to leave them in the bottom of the comment box. And I'm sure I'm very sure that Nikita will be able to answer them. Thank you so much
Definitely.
for being here. Thank you, Nikita, for
Thank
being
you.
my exceptional guest.
Oh,
And we are signing off right now. Bye for
thank
now,
you.
guys.